hook
Oh, okay, that's.
Pardon? Yeah.
for swinging.
Oh, yeah.
You're live. You're live.
Okay, we're live. Okay, we're going to do kind of a Clouser style. It's a semi-Clouser style fly for
Put that right
pink
under
salmon.
the
And let me have that one. I'm going to show it to you here. It's pinks like pink material. It seems like they're attracted to that. So this fly has got normally black eyes. I've got silver eyes today for the ones that we're going to use. And I think the black is nice. This is just a black bead change. And I didn't bring along my black bead chain, but it gives it contrast. And it looks a lot like some of the food that they will be eating on. So whether this is a shrimp or whether this is a minnow, I don't know if it really matters, but they seem to really like this fly. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off just putting some thread on here. And after I do that, I'm going to showcase the materials here. Just get my bobbin on there. I'm using pink thread, but you could use other colors thread. I'm going to use diamond braid here, this fine diamond braid, fluorescent hot pink for the body. And then we're going to tie it in a certain way, which will be interesting. And then we're going to use this pink crystal hair hot pink, and this is from Fly Tire Dungeon, which is a very economical source of materials. We're using basically a orange or a pink thread, 6/0 thread, just a standard type thread. Doesn't really matter which one you use. So starting off, we're going to put the eyes on, and what I normally do is I'll put a little thread about maybe 2 eyelets or hooks of the eye widths back, around 2, and then I'm going to put a little thread in front and leave a little space in the front. So I'm building up a little bumps of thread right here, and there's a little opening space in between. I'm going to cover that with thread so it does not move much. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and put just a fine drop of super glue on it. Then I'm going to lay that on there and start tying it on here. A couple wraps of thread on one side. And what I'm doing now is I'm setting them up, and I'm just going to crisscross back and forth.
Wow, how do you?
So I'm going crisscrossing back and forth, and after the crisscrossing back and forth, now I'm winding. Look at this, everybody. Stop for a second. I'm winding the thread around underneath the base, which is pulling all the threads tight. I'm going to go around on one side, around this way, and then just go back and forth. Then I'm going to go tie a little behind it, a little bit in front of that, and that's going to be anchored. So, and that, if I had to do it over again, I would have maybe put that a little bit further
How
back.
do you get that on there?
So just
Whoops.
hold it on there.
Okay.
And then run 2 or 3 wraps of thread over it,
Super glue on
just
my
to hold
hand
it.
to my cheek.
Yeah, you got to be careful of that. You're a little far forward, Greg, on your eyes. You want at least two hook eye widths back at the very front of it. So I would undo that and bring it back a little further. It's better to be further back than to be further forward. Yeah.
You're fine. There you go.
Come back.
Yeah, just take it off completely.
Okay, so back here more.
Okay, we've lost tension. Here, hold on, we got a mess. Okay, let's trim that flag off right there.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
There you are.
We're stopping here a second, helping some people out.
Let's run your thread back to right about here. About halfway.
Now do you notice how strong that thread is now?
Yeah, pardon?
It's a
Super strong.
like this.
GSP.
Okay.
Gel spun
Okay,
poly.
just want to make
It's
sure.
Vivas.
Yeah.
No problem with the
Now
eyes.
the other way.
Paul sells it.
Yeah,
It's not
like-
cheap.
So yeah, I would, move that back about a good
Okay,
20,
Just remember, every time you
the
go,
thickness of the eye about 1.5 back from where you have it there, Greg. It's better to be back than too far forward. Now, what's happened here? I've lost my,
There we go. Now Vern's behind it, so what we're gonna do is
That's
I just
good.
tuck under like this, and now you're behind it.
oh, okay.
Stop
Now,
for
did
a
you put a
second.
drop of glue
So,
on that?
so
Okay,
I'm
good.
gonna try this.
Because that's what you want to
Some
do.
people do.
So what,
And you can
if
buy,
you go like this, so you're going, this is called a
super
figure
glue.
eight. You're using a
The one with
figure
the
Right, that's
eight.
what he was doing.
measure.
And then,
So it's
after
really
that,
easy to get
go
the drop
after
in.
this,
Otherwise, use a brush.
go
or
around
something
like this, and
Brush is
then
actually
go
easier
like
than
this
just the
underneath
point.
it.
'Cause
See,
you
I'm
end up
pulling
getting
it
on
tight.
your hands, and then
You're
your hands
compressing
stick
all
where you
that
drop
thread
it into
tight.
It gets down
Okay,
in here,
can I-
and then have
I'm gonna
fun.
try it once.
keep
more.
it doing
Gave us,
So you go
this is the one he
around.
told us,
Yeah.
it's got
Like
the,
this?
the applicator inside.
I use the micro tip because you
Oh,
just
like
squeeze the
this?
tip, the sides, and you just
Yeah.
hold on to it and tip it up, and it micro measures the small amount. But that's kind of new that's come out.
So let's just review what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna put my hand over the light so you can see. What I've done is I've done a figure eight, and I've done maybe about 9 or 10 figure eights, and then I'm going around, pulling it tight, the thread, which compresses it. And because I pulled too hard,
So around like that.
I'm gonna have to stop and reload my
Are you
thread.
left-handed?
Now I can watch.
Right,
So this
right.
isn't the strong thread
hand.
he
Yeah,
was
I'm
talking
just-
about.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
not the gel scoop. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna put
I
this,
watched what you do. and
I
it's,
usually do.
thread it in.
Okay, yeah, you want to wrap this way,
I'll be digging.
usually. There you go.
Okay.
What that does is all those wraps, it squeezes those down tighter. and
Now it's
actually
not.
makes it stronger.
working.
And gel spun
then at
poly,
the
you
other
don't
side.
have to put as many wraps as what they do because
Thank you.
it's so strong.
Thank you.
It was pretty fast.
Cool.
What I've done before myself is to use regular thread, wrap a little bit of wraps around where I want to put
That
that
tip
eye.
of
then I
wrapping
just-
around like
and I just
that,
tie it off.
I have
Then
been
I put
doing
the
that.
gel
That's a good,
spun poly
Yeah,
because
on,
it tightens it up.
so the
It really
thread
does.
glue
Spin on the
absorbs into
shaft.
the
That's right.
thread.
What you want
a lot
this thing to be
tighter.
pretty solid
And then
on
you
the
get, I mean, you
shaft.
can't hardly.
That was something else.
Breaking loose,
If
so-
your thread
Cause-
breaks when you're in the middle of tying,
Yeah?
what do you do?
Well, what I do is I reload my thread and tie over it. It depends where it breaks. That's why a lot of times when you do stop, once in a while do a half hitch. So, one thing you could do if your thread breaks later, what you can do is if you do a half hitch and later on it breaks, you can always unwind back to the half hitch and then continue on.
Okay.
So it's a good way of anchoring
That's
it.
a
But
good idea.
if you've wound a lot like we have here, it's not going to make a difference. Now what I'm going to do is,
I always start out by saying a bad word.
start out. No, I don't. I try not to do that. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here, folks,
Yeah.
is I'm going to, after I've tied that on,
Because I'm a heavy.
I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of more super glue, and I'm going to just put a little on the
I used to,
body.
but I don't anymore.
So why did I put a little on the body there? Because I'm going to go, the next step is I'm going to go ahead and tie
You
on.
don't need that with this thread, right?
How
The
far down
body.
the body did you go?
I'm going to go down to just about where the point is, maybe a little bit
So it can't
past.
slide.
Now,
See?
what I'm going to do here,
Come on, get off there.
I'm taking this something here, this is the flat diamond braid that we talked about. I'm gonna take a little bit of that diamond braid, about maybe 5-6 inches of it, gonna pass it around. And what I'm gonna do with this diamond braid is I'm gonna tie it on differently than I normally do, because this stuff can be frayed and made into a tail. So I'm tying 3 or 4 turns like so.
Oh, I just.
And I'm going to come forward like this, and then I'm going to wind this, and I'm going to hold on to the fly so it doesn't move on my vise. And as I come around, I'm pulling this fairly tight. And I really like using diamond thread for a lot of my patterns, whether it's a steelhead muddler or a crazy Charlie or something like this. So now I've come up just behind the eye, going to tie off like this. Now what I can do, I can pull it underneath and tie it off again. And this is all technique. I could have finished it off right there. And then I'm going to sit there and use my scissors to trim it off a little bit. A couple more wraps and that's done. Now I'm going to take my scissor point and I'm just going to...
How far up with this diamond braid did you go?
I went all the way behind the eye.
If I get my camera in the way, just push my arm aside.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to let everybody catch up.
Please.
Now I notice you wind underneath and towards you.
Yeah.
That's different. Okay. Are you left-handed?
No,
Okay.
I just
Oh,
got
you,
used to it.
oh, shoot.
What?
I was
That's
running the
good.
thread around it, but you take this and wind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wound it forward until I got behind the eye, and then I tied it off, and I pulled it underneath and wound it again.
Okay, so
Just I mean, you could tie it off right there, but I just figured it'll be easier that way.
so
What did you do? She tied it off.
I tied it off here, but then I pulled the tag in and I brought the thread forward and
Yep.
tied it off here. So there's no, I mean, when you do little things like this, little techniques like that, you're making the fly more bulletproof. Now, bulletproof doesn't work when fish have teeth. When fish have teeth and you start, maybe this fly holds up, but you get to your 10th fish and it starts to look a little frayed, and then pretty soon it's just material, but you're still catching fish on it, which is always crazy. I've always wondered about that, but it still works. Okay, everybody's doing really good here. Really good. Okay, now we're going to use this H2O crystal hair.
Would you fold it up?
Huh?
Would you bring it forward and then tie it off, or just keep it there?
You can tie it off right there. You just tie it off right there. That's where you tied it
Okay.
off. Or just on the front of the eye. And then what you do is, if you tie it in, then you cover the bottom of the hook. See, if you tie it off there.
Now I'm going to use, folks, I'm going to use about maybe 15 fibers, 15, 20 fibers or more, maybe a little less.
Probably the other side.
And I'm going to pull out a section about the length of the fly, about at least 1.5 lengths of the fly, maybe 2 lengths. Let's go 2 lengths of the fly. Going to measure it again,
Well, I gave that guy my
about like that. And I'm going to do that same technique of tying it in. I'm just going to tie it in halfway. Now what I'm doing, you notice I like rotary vices. I like the idea that I can turn it, you have to turn your fly around. You don't have to, but it's easier to tie the material on. It's much, much easier to tie the material on when you've got the fly flipped and you're tying on top of the fly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pinch this down. Going to spin counterclockwise my thread again. And it's going to come over the top, maybe a couple turns. Now I rolled that over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back to where it's in the proper position. And I'm going to wind back towards the eye, 3 or 4 turns. Then I'm going to bend this back. Now when I bend this back, look what I'm going to do with my nail. I'm going to spread that material. See how I did that? If you just put it on top, I didn't do this to the last fly and I should have. Last fly we tied, but by spreading your nail on top, look at this. I've spread those material over the whole area, the whole top half of the fly right there. So now when I hold it in position, it's going to capture it much, much better. And you've got it spread all over the top. Now I'm going to tie a couple more wraps, and I'm just going to clean up the head a little bit here because I've got a little bit of a bump there because I like my heads
so
fairly
you're tying
neat.
this in back of the eye.
Yeah, this is all in. Well, this is Just behind the eye of the
Half
hook,
that.
yes.
Yeah,
Because
Behind
you're
the eye
gonna
of the
fold
hook.
it. and
No,
then
the
you're gonna have
eyes.
that there.
Yeah,
There you
but
go.
it's in
Right
front of the eye,
Pull it
so,
out twice
anyway.
as far. Oh, I see
Oh,
what you're gonna tie it
shoot.
on with it there. Is that it?
So now I'm gonna whip finish it.
okay, I missed something here.
Just
I'm
take it all
tying
the way
this
back down to the
in the back
beginning.
of the,
Right
It's
about
confusing
there.
because you've got two
Okay, now
different
you got enough
eyes.
room to tie the
Yeah.
Eyes
other
and the
fly.
eye of
You have
the hook.
the eye, you have the eye of the hook, and then you have the weighted eyes that you're using.
I've got to see what you did.
See?
Beautiful.
I'm gonna come by and help you a little bit here.
Okay, so you tied that.
So what I'm gonna do now is
Between the two.
I'm gonna take this off for a second and just clean this up a little bit. Now, what I do, I evenly, when I get the fly at this point, see if you can see it, I'll sit there and I won't totally trim this flat. What I'll do it at an angle like that, then I'll turn around, do an angle like this. So it's, you can see it's pointed in the middle. And that just gives it some body.
Clouser ties in front of the eye. So,
It folds back.
yeah, you spin it. Now you made a rope out of that GSP. Now just go ahead and flip it over. Don't worry about that.
There you
Just
go.
ahead and flip it
Okay,
over.
I'm gonna stop here.
Yeah, I'll stop. I'm gonna come over and finish this fly, and then I'm gonna come
Now
help
go ahead and let
you.
it
So what I'm gonna do is, I used super glue last time for the eye. What I'm gonna do this time is just use, I'll come over there in just a second, Jerry, to help you
So
out.
that, what happens is it'll spread over the sides of the hook equally on each side, other than have it clumped to one side of the hook. This way it'll naturally.
Putting the
There you go.
UV cure
You
on.
got it. See, see, those are little tricks you want to learn when you're doing these things. And we go to fly shows and learn this stuff,
Yeah.
guys.
Is that the end?
Yeah, go ahead and flip
Now I'm
it
just
over.
finishing off with the UV
And then
cure
shake
light.
that. You got it. Did you pull down? When you tighten your thread, you always pull down or you pull up, never to the sides,
That's right.
because otherwise your material will roll on the hook.
And you saw that?
Don't be a side puller.
Don't be a side puller.
I'm not.
Okay,
It's okay to yank sideways to set the hook.
Straight down.
so first off, let's do this
See
here.
there?
Let's
Now you
unwind
take
this
your
here.
thumb if you feel that isn't spreading the right way, and just kind of,
We-
or finger,
let's-
whatever you want to do, and get that. That looks pretty good. See, now when you
You lost
can
me a
tie
long
it
time
off.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that.
I think is he
We're
done
gonna
with
fix
it?
that.
He tied it off. I think he tied it
Here's what
off.
we're gonna do. We're
Yeah.
gonna just, let me have that material. I wanna give her a little
Could've
bit
done a
more.
little more, my way.
Huh?
Could've done a little
didn't
more.
Here's the
Yeah, I
finish.
see.
That's
And you
okay.
can cut
I
it
don't-
off
I
the
don't mind
same
sharing
length,
my stuff.
And then he's gonna shape it. That you get at the end. But go ahead and tie it off.
So what I'm gonna do here, I'll let you,
And that's gel spun poly. Okay.
this is our, I'm gonna
I'll show you a
get
little
more
trick, the
material
difference
here.
between gel spun poly. Do a whip finish on it. I want you to put 20 wraps on that.
So on
20
these,
wraps
He's got one.
Wraps of what finish?
with the-
Yes.
Gel spin.
with gel spun poly.
So what I'm gonna do
So
here,
now tell me,
I've got it like this,
which
okay?
is the right way?
So I'm gonna measure
Now, you could
two,
do it both